viewers, welcome back, and we are going to be reviewing our plays for this week ending October 21st. So in the first 2 weeks of October, ever since I believe October 3rd, I've been looking at NIO and a few other tickers that kind of came up with news during the week. So at first it was just NIO. I've got it here. So at first it was just NIO, and then I made a successful trade on calls, but if I recall correctly, I had missed a level that turned out to be the level at which it actually reversed on me. And the reason I took the call was because it had a particular trigger, which was good delivery news. And but it didn't go all the way to my final price target. And reason being was that I missed that level. And obviously the trigger or the catalyst of the deliveries didn't last that long, or wasn't bullish enough. And then the next week, I looked at NIO, but this time at puts. And I did quite well with those NIO puts. And then I also took a SunPower trade where it was actually, I believe it was also puts for SunPower, and it was also on a catalyst, which was a downgrade. And then I started looking at ENS just because, although that's a crypto, but the same fundamental, or rather the same basic technical principles apply to charting, of course, and to a lot of catalysts. And actually I had been looking at ENS because of the recent Ethereum merge and a lot of talk about how Ethereum might probably overtake Bitcoin, and now that it's becoming more popular and the merge makes it more efficient and whatever. So it had catalysts. So basically what we're looking at is you need to have some sort of catalyst to really make options work. And it's not the same for stocks because stocks don't have an expiry. And that's what makes trading options and trading stocks so different. And that's why a lot of people that go into trading thinking that they're going to be trading options the way you trade stocks, but with the added, sex appeal that options are a lot more profitable. Well, yes, they can be a lot more profitable, but they could also be a lot more risky. And what makes the difference is the time element. So when you're going to be trading options, you really want to look out for these catalysts. So all of these trades, if you notice, had some sort of catalyst. The bullish call trades at the beginning of October were based on good delivery numbers. And then I made a video in between, so here it is, October 2nd and then October 6th. That was actually pretty much the end of the week, or I believe it was Thursday. And then I just kind of reviewed why I missed, or how I actually missed, a technical charting level on NIO, which is exactly where it turned around and headed back down. And then the next week, I started looking at NIO and SunPower because it also had a catalyst, which was the downgrade, and ENS, even though the catalyst was a little bit old because this was October 11 and the merge, I believe, happened at the end of September, or beginning of October, not sure. But, that was still sort of alive as a catalyst. And then I ended that week looking at what had happened to the NIO plays, which were puts, which did pretty well, and what happened to the ENS. Although I did not take a trade, I just kind of put it in there because it was really nice, and we're going to go ahead and throw that into the mix today. We're going to be looking at NIO and ENS and possibly Johnson & Johnson. Okay, so here is our what we had at the beginning of the week for NIO. So actually I think this is about the middle of the week. I might have adjusted this. So this is October 21st, and we were setting up here on Tuesday for NIO. So this is what I had actually drawn over the weekend, and I don't believe I took a play on Monday, but I always draw, and not every analyst does this, but I've seen a few that do. They draw the up play and the down play, the upside play or the downside play. I'll take calls if it breaks above this level. I'll take puts if it breaks below this level. let me get this out of the way, and let's zoom in to what happened here. Okay, so here's pre-market Monday, and this is Monday, the trading day. Okay, so we this is a week where the general market sentiment has been negative or bearish, and of course most stocks, specifically tech stocks, and a lot of other ones as well, have been quite bearish and basically just dropping off from their highs in 2021. And NIO is no exception. So we have a general market downtrend. We have a ticker downtrend. We have a general market sentiment which is bearish, and we have the ticker trend which is also bearish in this case for NIO. And I set out the following plans. If on Monday it breaks above this level, I will take the calls, and if it breaks below this level, I'll take the puts. I actually did not take. I actually did not take this play because let me zoom in here, and this is on the 1 hour. Let me see if let me zoom in here, 15-minute. Okay, so now we're looking at the possible bullish play here on Monday, and to be honest, I don't remember if I didn't take this because I wasn't paying attention. I do have a full-time job, and it does take me away from the screen. This was Monday. Okay, no, that's the reason why. Because it did not happen. Well, it didn't exactly happen during no, it did not happen at all during market hours. Here are the market hours on Monday. As you can see, it opened up quite bullishly, and then it did have a bullish run all the way from open at 1222 to the highest at 1248. But that was it. It didn't reach our entry level, and therefore I did not take this trade. After hours, it did kind of run up, and it obviously crossed our entry level right here. Did not take the play because it was obviously after hours back here, pre-market up here, and then Tuesday it dumps. Okay. So that's what happened on Monday, but I had also left the other side of the play, or trade plan, just set up in case it worked. So let me move over. Obviously, it did not happen on Monday either, and here we are on Tuesday. So the play goes into play or into work here below the 1197. Yeah, 1197. So it actually broke through that level pre-market, and then during market hours it definitely tanked. And I did take this play. Unfortunately, I did not log this into the X-Trades app. It's kind of complicated to be watching the market and then producing your own plays and tending to your full-time job and also looking at alerts. There's a very important point to be made here is that you don't have to make your own alerts. You could obviously trade the analyst alerts from X-Trades, but it doesn't mean that you don't have to do the work. You still have to put in the work if you take in the trades. And a lot of the analysts on X-Trades will actually post their watch list before the day or actually before the week, and that gives you time to go to those tickers and draw out your levels, and then you can have a better idea of which tickers you feel more comfortable with if and when the analyst does post the alert. Okay, and if he does post the alert and you have your trade plan set up, with your long and your short position, then you can go ahead and take that trade. So you still have to do the work. Otherwise, if you go in, like they say, take the trade blindly, you might end up in a lot of pain. And then you end up, upset with the analysts, and you end up upset with X-Trades, and it's not really their fault. Because you still have to do the work. Okay, so this was what I had prepared over the weekend in case it broke the level 1197. And it did pre-market, and it definitely did during market hours, and it just basically plunged down to 1135. And this is where I exited my trade. I did not... my next level was actually all the way down at 1016. This was probably a level that I hadn't drawn in, but that was actually that was my second price target. My first price target would have been here at 1172, and then it ran all the way out to 1133. I didn't feel like going any further, and that is just my personal preference. I was actually thinking that it might still hold this line, which if we kind of shrink this in, okay, and we look at, that's the bottom trend line, and it had been bouncing off of it, reacting off of that trend line from quite a while. Ever since it got near it down here, it reacted very harshly right here, and then it did actually dip below it here, and then immediately gapped up, and this was after hours and pre-market hours, and then here it just, you know, it just melted right through it. Okay. Okay, so once it did that, I didn't have any other levels drawn. I was expecting this to actually bounce, so I didn't have any lower levels except this very long-term level down here at 1018. And so it could have been a lot more profitable, basically, than what I had. That was, you know, a good call on NIO. I haven't drawn my levels for next week, but I probably will come up with that a little bit later, or since we're here, might as well go ahead and dive in. Just a few quick, there's a swing level right there, which I would use, as well as this one down here. Now, before I do those, I'm actually not doing this properly. Apologize. I should actually zoom out and go see if I can meet those two levels elsewhere. So let's go all the way down out to the daily, and as you can see, there's that downtrend line that I was talking about. It's sort of like a channel that it recently formed down here, and it had been trading in it, and then it finally broke through it. Sorry about that mess of levels there, but let's see what we got here. So there's nothing to base off of levels in between the, the 1130, I believe, and the 1016. So we're gonna have to go back further. Here it is. It doesn't seem to be a lot there either. Let me just quickly, yeah, because I do remember that Sun Power had a good couple of years over here. Nope, those are just wicks. Wouldn't want to base much of my trading around wicks. Let's see here. Oh, there's the dinosaur. Okay, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but this is the very beginning. Okay, so that was back in 2018 somewhere. Okay, so there's nothing to trade off of there. And I'm trying to look in at this level, see if I can find anything. It doesn't really look like there's a lot. We have that level right there. We pretty much have that level. I guess we could draw this level right here. So let me go ahead. It's not really a swing, but it does look like it hits again here. So it could be something. And that's a 2-pixel solid line because it's a long, long time ago. And that's July 2020. One thing I don't like about TradingView is that when you zoom out, or whenever you change time frames, it actually sends you back to the present. Let me see. Which is usually really far away, especially when you're drawing these far away levels. Here we go. July 2020. Okay, let me zoom in here and see what we can find. We're just basically trying to confirm to see if that 4-hour level plays, that daily level plays on any other 4-hour level. It doesn't seem like it. This is a gap though. So I'm actually going to go ahead and draw that gap. There's one gap here. I'm going to try to leave the wick out of it. Whoops. Did not click on that. Okay, and there's another gap right there. So just because these levels are down here, I'm going to go ahead and draw these, which is actually where the gap starts. The second gap, mind you. So we have these levels here. Now, okay. Now, I don't know if, yeah, the coordinates. Trying to see if there's a way to extend these automatically all the way to the right. Yep. Let's see. There we go. All right. Now we don't have to drag that long rectangle all the way. And same here, extend to the right. Perfect. All right, so there we go. And now we can shoot on over. And here we are. And let's zoom back in. Here's our 30-minute. Okay, so this is a gap that it actually did not fill. So that's still a possibility. And so is the one below it. And that has an even bigger support level. Now, I would be really surprised if NIO went all the way down here. I would actually be surprised if it broke down the 1015 support. But you never know. So this is what it's looking like. And I'm going to, so basically what I would do is I would expect it to break the nearest resistance above me to take calls. All right. Move that up a little bit. There we go. And I would use that as my stop. And that could be my first target. But here's the thing. If you're playing, let me go ahead and make this bigger. If you're playing for, risk reward pretty much even Steven, then it might not be worth playing. So if we're saying if this thing breaks above this level, I'm going to make, it's going to make a run from 1134 to 1172. That's 40 cents, but it could also go from 1133 to basically 11. That's another 30 cents. So and that's why the risk reward is around 1. So that's not a very tempting play. If I had a better one, I would definitely take it. So what I might do is risk this and say, okay, it might break through this level, but then because it might go for the point of control line, which would be a better target. And if I did that, the risk reward would be 2.5, which is a lot better looking than 1.14. But there is, of course, a risk, and we are looking at a downtrending ticker in a bearish market, so it might not be a good idea to go ahead and just blow past this long support level, because that level is going to be significant resistance. Okay, so that would be our long play, which is not looking very good. And then what happens if it breaks the next support, which would be this one? Okay, so I would go ahead and take puts if it breaks that support right there. Oops. Okay. That would be the nearest support that I would, oh, sorry, that would not be the nearest support would be this one right here. So I'm going to have to move this out of the way. That would actually be the biggest support next to it. This would be the next one, but it's a dashed line. So we're assuming, or we're operating, under the precept that local supports have less significance than long-term support. So that is the one that I would use. And I would probably keep an eye on those two local supports as targets, but my target would definitely be 1018. Okay, so we would basically go ahead and look at this on Monday and see what else is going on. I am leaning more towards this play than the other one for a couple of reasons. Number one, the risk reward is 4.39 compared to 1.09. And number two, because it's still a bearish market, and there is no news yet for an improving economy, and not even the Chinese one. So there's no reason to think that this is just going to bounce back up. One thing that it might do is bounce back up and then hit resistance on this downtrending line. If that does happen, this would be a definitely confirmed play. Okay, so there might be some room to run up, but then it'll probably hit this channel downtrending line on the channel and then immediately bounce back down, and that would be a very good signal to go ahead. So it either could bounce off of this support or bounce off of this area up here, which would be support and the downtrending channel, which is good confluence, and then take this play. But in that case, the up room or the up play is not as profitable as the down play, so the downside play would definitely be the one to take. So that is what I'm going to be looking at in NIO for next week. There is a lot more. There are a lot more earnings coming up next week, which might turn out to be bullish and give it a run up for this trend line or support level. Depending on how it reacts, then the put play might be the one to take. Okay, so that's going to be our NIO play for next week, which is the last week in October. And the other thing, or the other two tickers I wanted to look at was ENS, just because we've been throwing it into the mix here. Let me zoom out to what we had, which is a big mess. I used to mind the mess. No, I don't so much. Okay, so this is basically what we had on the daily. Well, let's look at the weekly. Okay, so it had been on a downtrend, obviously, just like a lot of other tickers. So my notes here. It had been on a downtrend basically since 2021. Okay, just basically crashing down, but you can see, like we talked about, it is indisputable that it has started to bounce or base or react or stopped going lower at the very least. So we zoom into the daily and we can see here what we had been looking at was that the bounce started here, and it had been making higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, and it made a higher high, and then it made another higher high. This was the run that we actually, I actually took a profitable trade here of about $1 from 1850 to 1950, I believe. I could have let it run, but I didn't. As you know, I'm a paper hands kind of trader. It went all the way to 20. I got out, and then I did get back in. And this is what I wanted to show you because this is what we played last week. But I got stopped out of the trade. So this is on the 1 hour. Okay, and this is what we had been looking at. Basically, now I have to zoom in here some more. These candles look too small. Okay, so this is where the week started. More or less. Well, this is where the month started. Actually, no, here's where the month started. This is where the week started, more or less. And I got into this play as soon as it broke, I believe, the 1950 here. Up here is where I got into this trade. I'm going to zoom in here. And it started kind of bouncing around this rectangle. Okay, chopping up, down, and it broke down below, and this is where I got stopped out. So you could see my my play is still behind the triangle. The rectangle. Sorry, let me go ahead and get rid of this just real quick. Okay, so here's where I got stopped out. Sorry, here. This is where I got stopped out on Tuesday, the 18th. So I was waiting for it to go back in. I was considering it, but it didn't. And then I just decided that I would just stay out until I saw a more bullish behavior, because it was, it hit under here and it was underneath that 50 SMA. It did, briefly cross above it, but as soon as it hit that, that 236 fib there, which was very near our 19.5 entry level, it bounced right back down and then went under the 50 SMA. So I just decided to stay out, and it was a good thing because it did bounce off of this recent trend line, but that one only starts on October 3rd. Okay, but as you can see, it broke right through it. It melted right here, which basically was part of the general market sentiment, and it went back down to our second trend line, which instead of starting in October went all the way back to middle of September. And that is the one that has been holding so far. It basically stopped and it kind of reacted right here. And then there's this other one below, which goes way back. Let me see how far this goes back. I believe Oh yeah, this goes way back. All the way back to July. Okay, so this bottom uptrend line, we have three trend lines. One that started in October, one that started in September, and the other one, sorry, this is the October one. This one is the September one, and then the other one goes all the way back to July. And this is the one that we are on this September one still. And we're going to zoom in to see what we have. I'm obviously not looking at a play right now. I did kind of set this one up a few moments ago because I was looking at it and it looked like it was holding. It still does look like it's holding the 50 SMA. It hasn't decidedly broken down underneath it. I was predicting that it was going to basically keep melting, which it could still, down to this September trend line like I mentioned, and to this support down here, but it hasn't so far. So that was kind of bullish that it didn't keep going through to this July trend line, and it's just kind of been holding there. Let's take a closer look here. It's kind of been hugging that 50 SMA. It's right below it. Okay, and you can see that it's basically held on for the past, what, this is 1 hour, so for the past 7-8 hours. And I'm going to be looking at this over the weekend, and I'm kind of ready to set up a trade here somewhere. I have to look at these levels again because it just blew through them right here. I was going to use this fib, which is the, let's see, I'm not sure what that fib is. I think it might be the 7.6. Yeah, the 7.86. I was going to use that as my entry point. So basically do something like this. And it would be above the 50 SMA. So that would be a bullish sign. But I would rather it also take out at least this high right here. So that's why my trade plan or my long position was here, because it would obviously be above the 50 and also above that recent or local high. So that would be my play on ENS. I wouldn't really play. I don't play crypto to the downside because there are no puts. You have to short it, and that's just not something I'm prepared to do. So that's what ENS is looking like. And the last one that I wanted to mention was Johnson & Johnson. I played this one today. And did quite well. Took calls on this. Johnson & Johnson is not a ticker that moves a lot. You could tell if you go and look at the ATR, which would be an indicator that I could put on. I don't know if I have the ATR. I think I removed it. It was one of my favorites. Let me go ahead and look for it. ATR. So that's the average true range, and what it does is it basically gives you an idea. Oh yes, okay. I need to remove one of the ones that I have on right now. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. It's not a problem. I'm going to remove the Neptune one, add that back on. Okay, let's go back to ATR. There we go. It's on. And what this tells you is the actual range that this stock moves in. If we go to the daily, for example, okay, so we're looking at a stock that usually moves around $2.90, at $2.90. Whereas if you look at something like Apple, it moves something like around 3 or 4. I don't know. Let's look at Apple. Not to mention something like Netflix or Tesla. So these guys are around like $4.60 or $5. If you go to something like Netflix or Tesla, it's more like 20 or 30. Okay, so Tesla's at around 13 right now. Netflix might be high. That's about the same. Okay, so back to Johnson & Johnson. Again, why did I take this trade? Because it had a catalyst. If it hadn't, then I probably would not have taken it. There was a catalyst that it got a defense contract, a logistics defense contract. So I went ahead, and it had earnings, and of course they had been positive. I just kind of heard that over the news, and more importantly, it's a defensive stock, and we're on a bearish market. And bearish market is, or in this case, the reason why it's bearish is because we have inflation, prices going up, and we have a recession, productivity and profits going down because of consumer spending. Actually, consumer spending, yes, it has gone down in the products part of the economy, not so much in the services part of the economy. But basically, these are the defensive stocks because you use them as defense when the economy is bad, which is exactly what's going on right now. These are the ones that basically, or normally, are able to transfer inflationary price increments to their customers, such as Pepsi. You don't mind paying 5, 10, 50 cents more for a can of Pepsi or a bag of chips or for Q-tips, but you do you do mind paying 10% more for an iPhone because you're talking about something that you don't really need and it's $1,000 already, and 10% is like $100 more, so you really think about it. But I don't know, $3-4 Pepsi can, you're going to end up paying $3.30 for it. It's not that big a deal. Okay, so it had a catalyst, and that is the one that basically gave me the in. And here we go. Let's go to the 15-minute. Okay, here is the play. Oh, I was wondering why my chart was looking so small. There we go. Okay, so basically, here is the pre-market, and those are the levels that I had. Not that many. I drew them real quick because this happened on Thursday, and that's when I took the. That's when I heard the news. So in pre-market, somewhere around here is where I heard the news. There wasn't much action, as you can see. I'm going to make this even bigger. There wasn't much action after hours. I don't remember actually if it was after hours or pre-market, but pre-market you could definitely see a jump. So as soon as I saw this, I decided to go ahead and take the calls. I believe it was a 165 call that I took. That's something that we're going to dive into in the future videos, is what strike and, of course, expiry date you take when you do decide and draw your levels. I mean, there's also the 169 strike, which is a lot cheaper than the 166, but the chances of this going in the money are way further out than this. So I went ahead and I got this and actually got out right at that level. And I had only bought one. I didn't have a runner. If I would have, definitely would have let it run. And look at that. It probably would have made me, if this was 100%, it would have made me another 100% right here, because this is, let me see, this is a run from 164, almost and a half, to 166. Okay, no, that's $2. So 166 to 1, yeah, that's about the same. So this was a catalyst, a defensive stock, which even though the market is bearish, it is something that people would be willing to buy. And if you get a catalyst behind it, it's definitely going to improve the chances of people and institutions buying this. So again, this was one that I did not post because I did not have the time. I think I did post the actual results somewhere in the options chat, the results from my my win, and but I didn't post it in the X-Trades app. I'll try to throw in that at the end of the video. So that is basically what I did this week. I did the NIO puts. I basically stopped out of my ENS trade, and I took a calculated chance or risk here on Johnson & Johnson. So next week there's a lot of earnings, so there's probably going to be a lot of catalysts that we can look out for, and that is what we're going to be looking for to make our plays. The only one that we're going to repeat is NIO, unless ENS decides to do something. NIO is the only one that we're going to play again next week, just because like we said, we've been playing it a lot, and we wanted to really focus on it so that we could, or I could, make sure that my system was fine-tuned, I guess. And this, we said that we were going to let this run up and probably hit support, resistance either here or at this downtrending channel. And definitely, if it bounces back and confirms with a retest, then we will take this put play down to 10, and we might even leave a runner down to the 8 level, which is all the way down here. Okay, so I will see you next week, and I'll try to update anything, if anything changes on NIO and or ENS over the weekend. All right, so have a good one, and I'll see you next time.